Thank you for tuning in to No Flag Radio. I'm your host, P. Making it happen. Today we talking about assimilation politics. I said I would do this not too long ago, and the events of the past couple weeks with the voting frenzy and all of that, with the old black media and old black Hollywood bringing out whoever they can, the young coons, the young uninformed, to try to get some sort of traction with the black community in terms of this whole voting process, voting with no agenda, voting with no money undergirding your pro-black lobbyists so they can push your pro-black empowerment politicians, that type of shit. This topic is fitting. Assimilation politics, I'm going to break it down into two parts. I'm going to break it down into assimilation and then the politics part of it. And hopefully y'all can grasp where I'm trying to get at. Assimilation on its face is a way to leave the black community unprotected in the lanes that those assimilators or those who would be assimilating find to assimilate. And this is in a white supremacist, predatory, terrorist regime that we're dealing in. It's a regime where we get preyed on in areas that we choose to leave unguarded, and assimilating is a way for you to just leave your post, basically, right? So we must look down on assimilation, period. We are tethered to a unique relationship to the universe, just as being melanated people, and to our community, and that must not be interfered with. All right, we have to guard our values. We have to guard those priorities of ours that are pro-black empowerment and in the best interest of black empowerment and forward progress, period. So first of all, let's break down that word assimilation. The dictionary definition is the process of taking in and fully understanding information or ideas. To take in knowledge from some place, or the absorption and digestion of food or nutrients by the body or any biological system. Compare it to the social construct of assimilation. It's more of a negative, self-defeating context when we talk about a white supremacist regime, because all that's available to assimilate into one's knowledge or assimilate into your system has been largely fuckery and bullshit shit. So you have to find other things to assimilate into your being in order to enrich yourself, right? This is what we're faced with doing every day. Just as a ritual, we're faced with doing that and adjusting to our life here by doing that, right? Just to break down the word in terms of the social contour that it's taken, there was a time in American life where assimilation, just on a street definition, by anybody outside of the white sphere, was looked at as selloutish. Fuck around and assimilate into a workaday, be good, be quiet about white supremacy life as the default position in this society. This was regardless of race. If you were a non-white, this was the rule. Now, eventually, with these other non-white groups, we're gonna talk about it in terms of race, because that's the polarizing element. That social activity is obviously fashioned around in a racist white supremacist regime. Eventually, all these other non-white groups, that's, the Latinos, the Indians, the Asians, they all eventually got co-opted to where they, in very, very large numbers, turned out to be assimilating groups, right? Like, by comparison to what black people is about in general, these other groups, they have a weaker backbone. They bend to the system a lot quicker because they don't want no trouble. They don't want to have their own infrastructure outside of what white mommy and daddy dole out to them or what white mommy and daddy tell them is cool. I talked about this in my video, Latinos' Unspoken Career as Sellouts, about how the Puerto Ricans came over from Puerto Rico in the 50s. They saw how Puerto Ricans was getting treated and getting shitted on. And then during Trump's campaign, it was Latinos for Trump. When Geraldo was caping during Trump's campaign, shitting on Latinos, saying, keep them immigrants out, right? I mean, straight shitting out here. All it takes is a few goodie bags and these other groups fold in more numbers than the ones of them that don't fold. I was looking at a study yesterday that showed how immigrants vote in America, and it was just breaking it down based on what generation of immigrant they were, be it first, second, third, or fourth generation. But I want y'all to look at this because it shows how assimilation, in terms of, the street social context, was meant to slowly infiltrate the mind of non-white, potentially assimilating groups. So the first generation, it says these are people that are not born in America, they have no parents or grandparents in America. They were more likely to be independent voters. That means no Democratic, no Republican, none of that. The second born generation, these are the people that were born in America, no parents or grandparents born here. Those turned out to be more democratic and less independent. Third generation, them and their parents are born here and their grandparents weren't. Those showed up as being not independent at all and also slightly less democratic. Okay, they started gaining more conservative Republican type numbers, right? And the fourth generation, this is where them and their parents and grandparents are born here and they showed up not independent or democratic and were way more conservative Republican. This is what we're seeing now. This shows that these other non-black groups, they play the game. This data about the fourth generation was a prediction at the time by the stat takers of this survey. So white supremacist terrorist society knows that it's made to wear down vote. This is an outlook that they supposed would happen with this fourth generation. And I'll be damned if we're not seeing it now with non-black, non-white groups. Where black people stand is we need to stave off this kind of mentality, this assimilation mentality. To add a little more context, there was a book entitled Assimilation, American Style. The author is a guy named Peter Salins. He's a white guy. And it lays out the 3 tenets of assimilation in America from a white guy's eyeballs, right? He says, first, in order to assimilate into America, whoever this group or being is, they have to first accept English as the national language. Second, they have to live by what's referred to as the Protestant worth ethic. And then they put in parentheses, being self-reliant, hardworking, and morally upright, right? And then third, assimilation requires you to take pride in your American identity and believe in America's liberal, democratic, and egalitarian principles. This is what he wrote, right? Well, damn, the white supremacists, they only follow one of those things. They've only followed one of those things since the start of the country, is speak English, right? Everything else since this country's inception, white supremacist terrorism has made a beeline to shit on it. So it should help you see how abysmally enfeebled a black person gotta be, a coon motherfucker out here gotta be, towing this line of be good and quiet while white daddy administers your lot in life as you know it. This is what assimilation look like when you black and trying to pull it off, right? That shit gets no play here. Because we know when white supremacists are allowed to run wild, when you set no boundaries for white supremacist terrorists, be them workaday white supremacists, elite bankers in Switzerland somewhere, or some Chinese neo-colonists out in Kenya buying up the country at wholesale rates because of the puppet Negro infrastructure over there. When you allow them to run roughshod and do what they want to do and say, hey, you're a bad guy if you protest it, that's their calling card. If you ever go against what they tell you to do, you're a bad guy. That's some lame ass shit. What being an assimilator sets you up to be is constantly in contention with where you came from as a black person, where the black group came from. And that's some garbage ass shit. Now, the second part of assimilation politics is the political part. Well, those out here playing assimilation politics don't even play politics properly. They don't even have their own political trajectory. As far as I'm looking at it, they're either looking back at white mommy and daddy to give them a cue as to what to do politically, like vote en masse with no black agenda, or they unable to shake the slave mentalities of white Jesus, the falsity of white independent creation of wealth, like there's something magical about whiteness being able to kill, rape, and rob and enslave to force a country's legs into existence. So basically, on the political end, as long as black people who play assimilation politics, as long as those of us are looking to white mommy and daddy for our programming mentally, we're setting ourselves up. I mean, and there's always gonna be, people like me and other people in the new black media that we're gonna always be laying out some stinging ass blows. We always gonna be blamping you in the motherfucking head if you ever hear from us about what we think about your life, right? Because just assimilating just to do it, just playing white mommy and daddy's fiddle whenever they say play it, just for the hell of it, that's dangerous. That's you kissing white society's ass is second nature to you, to where you don't think out the trajectory of it or the consequences of it once you get on the trajectory and finish the trajectory. It's like, you motherfuckers is fucking up out here. That being your response to being in a white supremacist terrorist regime is no response at all. And our response to this white supremacist terrorist global regime is the most important part of our existence in this regime. I got a tweet, maybe about May, going into June, when the animation game was high and I was flipping the animations out at a rate, right? I got a white dude trolling on my Twitter account. He was just like, I've been to your YouTube channel and all you do is talk about white people. Because, on my Twitter, I go in on white supremacy. I go in on coons. I go in on interracial relationships. I go in on anything that's not pro-black empowerment, pro-black forward progress. All right, and he left it at that. Just like, you talk about white people all the time. Like that's something bad, but I corrected him and I said, no, my channel is not about white people. Don't ever get that shit twisted. My channel is about black people and our response to everybody out here. Because, it's hard to get a lot of white people off of their high horse to get them to stop thinking about themselves for 2 seconds, long enough to hear what the fuck anybody else is saying. So I have to check his ass and slap him upside the fucking head with it and let him know, bitch, no, it ain't like that. Right? It's our response that's the most important to everything going on with our situation. That's gonna determine our conditions. It's our response that determines our conditions, not just your punk ass white existence. I just want to say that to that dude, whoever the fuck he was. And cooning and playing assimilation politics, that's the deadly response. We're at a point where I can proudly say we've left the coons to swim and play their assimilation politics all alone. We watching them drown, and I'm just brushing my people up on what's happening with it, right? Our ancestor, Dr. Henry Clark, he said, nothing came from the European mind that was meant to facilitate anything but European domination. So what the European gave you, they gave you a watered down foundational black history. They gave you a watered down self-identity. They gave you a watered down sense of power. So when you decide to be on their team, you go for the watered down everything when you're dealing with them. But I just want to get into that quickly. First, about assimilation politics. I got another post I want to do about it, and we're going to build on this topic just to see what kind of air we're taking on as we get at our coons, as we get at these half-hearted entities out here, as we do all of that. I just want to keep everybody abreast of the pulse out here. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when I'm dropping. Get it, y'all.